navigate in an ocean of ambiguity, a sea of almost endless choices. It's our day job. But perhaps the best experts ever in the world to always find the right direction were the ancient Polynesians. What Wade Davis called in his 2009 seminal book, Wayfinders. These were ancient Polynesians who can go across, traverse oceans, and find the exact island they want to go to without any modern instrumentation. No compass, no map, no radar. Instead, they felt the reverberations on the bottom of their hulls. They looked at the positioning of clouds, the position where the sun set and rose, and from there, looking at their inner self, and a theme I'll talk about, pattern recognition, were able to get to exactly where they wanted to go. So today I'm going to use that metaphor of wayfinding to talk about entrepreneurship today and in the next 10 years. So, entrepreneurship, next 10 years in next 15 minutes. A little bit on background input to the research. What are some of the trends and archetypes of entrepreneurship? What are timeless truths that won't only be here today, next decade, but next century? Wayfinding. How do you actually find that direction? Why does it matter at all? Background and inputs. So, 3 buckets. A little bit of experience, lots of conversations with lots of better entrepreneurs than ourselves, people like you, and a lot of research over the last few years in collaboration with Harvard Business School. So on the experience front, I've been fortunate to be part of the earliest commercialization of internet back in the day when Loic, I think, had his 5th company. And from there, became part of the transformation of taking a newspaper company, working with the CEO, to what today became Thomson Reuters. And more recently, started my own venture firm called Qball. On the conversation front, through that experience, we were able to just have great conversations with a lot of people. And it was very fortunate for us that we just started digitally recording some of these conversations, including with yours truly, over the past few years. After having those conversations, asking entrepreneurs through the world, what really makes you tick? What drives your success? What caused a failure? We formalized a piece of research that we affectionately call the Entrepreneurial Aptitude Test. All of you can try this at hsgl.com. We also have codified this in a book, and I think we're giving away to the first 100 or 150 people after meeting speakers the book. But what we did through the research is we went through and we asked a series of questions. It's like a psychometric test, like a Myers-Briggs or PI. And this is just one small section of it. But we asked entrepreneurs, are you driven more by your brilliance or boldness, passion, people skills, analytical, such questions. And what you notice, there's no one right or wrong answer. What the test does online, it takes 7 minutes, you can all try it, is it looks at your pattern of decision making and tries to determine what trait you're really dominated by. But the other thing we found through this research is that at this moment in time, more so in my last 15 years of being an entrepreneur, is that we have an ever-expanding ocean of trends and archetypes. Now, there are many, many different types of trends and archetypes. I'm only going to highlight 4. One of the ones that are missing here is from Loeb in London, where we talked about the share economy. But 4 mega trends that I see in archetypes of entrepreneurs are as follows. First, the algorithmic. That's all about big data, the data scientist, an explosion there. Second, women. Geraldine is doing a panel tomorrow, merci Geraldine, on women. I look forward to the day when we come to a Loeb or a TED or a Davos where it sounds very strange to do a session on women entrepreneurs, as strange as it would sound like we're going to do a session on men in entrepreneurship. And the real great thing here is that we're seeing an increasing balance like never before. Of revenue companies of greater than 10 million, you now have approaching a run rate of 50% owned by women. But the gap in technology is still real. Yet, the recent study in work that we've done and by Dow Jones shows that where there's a woman on the founding team, the chance of success is about 2x. And we all know that as guys, but we don't have the EQ that women do to actually act quicker on that. Interdependent entrepreneur. This is about almost every startup today is a multinational day one. We are increasingly interconnected, interdependent, and need to think globally from the start. And in high tech to low tech, what James Glavitz called the end-to-end. experience-driven entrepreneur. I'm just going to highlight 2 or 3 of these a little bit more. Let me start algorithmically. 15,000. 15,000%. That is the increase in number of data scientist jobs, a job description that almost did not exist, okay, a few years ago, formally, between 2011 and 2012. 65%. That's the volume of equity trading that is done quantitatively or high-frequency equity trading in the U.S. What does that mean? 10 years ago, we used to invest in public stocks like this. You actually look at the people. What does the company do? Does it have a competitive advantage? Today, you look at just supply, demand patterns, blips on the screen, capture the moment. It's almost like playing a video game. 2/3 of all trades are done almost algorithmically. Now, the third one, 26 out of 30. I'm from Boston. We recently won the World Series in baseball. World Series, even though it involved only American teams, I know. But still, we won, and we're very proud of it. And, you know, what's amazing about baseball is that since the time of a gentleman, Billy Beane of the Oakland A's, we now have formalized analytics. 26 out of 30 Major League Baseball teams today have formal analytical algorithmic staff with them. Now, let me just talk briefly on high to low tech and this trend that is really exploding over the next decade, driven by the Internet of Things. Okay? We heard earlier this morning from Uber, what is the Internet of Things? And what is the end-to-end, E-to-E entrepreneur? The E-to-E entrepreneur is about that type of entrepreneur that's taking the everyday, mundane task or process and turning it into an extraordinary experience facilitated by ambient, pervasive, Internet everywhere web. Digital hailing of a cab we heard about. Something that we just come to expect now, seeing the car come to us. Seamless paying. Or think of a company in Cambridge, GlowCap. You walk into a room. You see a soft ambient glow in the corner, and it's your pill cap, reminding you to be compliant with your medication. Push a button on the bottom of that pill cap. Script auto-refilled. And then our own company, a shameless self-promotion, and my venture capital company, another company that I was proud to co-found a few years ago, Minilux. This is an effort to Starbuck the nail salon, where you get manicures and pedicures. And what are we doing there? We're envisioning a future where you come in, you see that wall of nail colors, and all your previous choices are highlighted for you. You go, you look on your phone, the preference of all your texts are there with a countdown timer of when the next one will be ready. You then go and check out, service, tip, paid, seamless. Everyday mundane experiences made more convenient, smarter, and more beautiful. Driven by the 24 billion devices that will be connected over the next decade, creating $6.2 trillion in new GDP growth. Now, what about timeless truth? Those are some of the trends and entrepreneurial types over the next decade. But what is always a constant in entrepreneurship? Well, our research that Paul alluded to has crossed now some 25,000 people taking that survey sample that are entrepreneurs and founders. And most important, what we found is that there's 4 core traits: your heart, your smarts, guts, and luck. Okay? So these are the 4 key traits I'm about to talk about. I'll just repeat them: heart, smarts, guts, and that elusive quality of luck. So before I go in, just try to think as I describe these, which resonates with you. You're all going to want to say all of them do. You're all thinking in your head you have all of them. But just try to think on a relative basis which one really drives you. So let me start with the quality of heart. And we'll start with a little movie. Jiro. Who's seen that film? Hands up. Okay. All of you who have not seen it, go to your Netflix now. You get nothing else out of this presentation. You're going to get a damn good movie list, I promise you. Okay? Jiro dreams of sushi. You know, it's not just about a film about excellence in food. It's a film about excellence and passion, excellence in the heart. And the heart is perhaps the foundational and most important quality in entrepreneurship. And how does the heart reveal itself? 3 ways. First, purpose and passion. In the case of Jiro, a singular, unwavering commitment to perfection in sushi. Second, what the Greeks call agape, sacrificial love. Many of you as entrepreneurs feel it out there. Doing that thing that is worth caring for, like a maternal love for her child. And third, nuance. Nuance. It separates really great entrepreneurs from those that are just good. Jiro, massaging an octopus for 30 minutes before serving it. The toasting of seaweed for his sushi over open coals. The delivery of sushi at perfect body temperature. These are the 1,000 points of lights that we know as entrepreneurs that you cannot see as an end user, but you can feel. And it helps explain what I thought were 2 quite surprising stats that came out of our study. Maybe not when we think about it, but 70% of businesses that actually had a formal exit or an IPO did not start with the formal business plan. 70%. And it also helps explain why 61% of founders are heart-driven. Now what about smarts? Clearly, book IQ matters to some degree. Unfortunately, for all of us that have spent a lot of money on schools and degrees, it really doesn't matter that much. What really matters in smarts, instead, are those that can look into the everyday, ordinary elements like a snail, escargot, and see the Fibonacci. Those that can look and see a seemingly disarray of dots and instead find a constellation meaning. Those that get pattern recognition. Pattern recognition is at the essence and nucleus of great smart-driven entrepreneurship. Now how about guts? Guts is all about the doers, people that execute. You have more dones than to-dos on your list. You're part of rare breed. Only about 15% of our population said we're guts-driven. It's often harder to find an amazing, excellent COO than it is a really good CEO. Now, the guts dominant manifest themselves in 2 ways. First, in the sprint, and over time in the marathon. Another movie, your arm gets stuck in a mountain. What are you going to do? What do you do in that moment of truth? The first level of guts is the guts to initiate. The guts to initiate. Think about pivot points. Think about hiring, firing a CEO. Maybe it's yourself. Think about firing a co-founder who might be a friend. Think about those moments where you're trying to decide on getting funding. Do you have the guts to initiate? And the second level of guts, do you have the guts to endure? Perseverance, resilience, thickness of skin, stoicism. We all know that the journey of entrepreneurship is full of speed bumps. Are you resilient and persistent? And ultimately, the highest level of the guts dominant entrepreneur we've seen, that's the hardest level to cross, is once you achieve success, you have the guts to evolve to the next level, to a different business. And it helps explain why that 15% set of guts dominant people has been able to fail before. 30% of them have failed, but they've gotten right back up on that horse. And by corollary, it helps explain why the guts dominant entrepreneur, 1 in 3 are serial entrepreneurs. Now, last but not least, luck. Heads or tails, pile ou face. It's just about chance, right? Probability, 50-50. Well, luck, it turns out, as we did our research, is a term that is perhaps the most misused in entrepreneurship. We label people as lucky, that we want to think they're lucky because we don't have the same chance. But it's not about chance. It's about an attitude. A lot of people, we say that lucky SOB that met that founder, that met that VC. It has very little to do with chance, but what it does have a lot to do is their attitude. And the lucky attitude that we found in 25% of the population set that really had this dominant trait, people like Tony Hsieh of Zappos. It starts with great humility. Do you have the capacity to believe that there are forces greater than you helping you get to your destiny? Some even call it faith. Second, intellectual curiosity, the voracious appetite to seek new experiences, always test what's new. And third, optimism. Optimism is that willingness to suspension of disbelief that gives the energy to realize the humiliating intellectual curiosity. One test for you all, because all of you are saying we're optimistic people. Okay, so one test that we saw and we used is the 24 rule. The next time someone says an idea at the web here or at the startup competition across the way, can you wait 24 seconds, just 24 seconds before criticizing one element of it? And if you're really good, you'll do as my mentor Jay Chai, who founded Chai a Day, a visionary in advertising, said, can you actually wait an entire day to think about every reason why that idea might work before allowing yourself to think about any reason why it won't? Do you have this luck dominance? Do you have this lucky attitude? So what came out, everyone wants to know the answer. Should I be 20% heart, 50% guts, this, that, whatever the recipe is, I'm sure it's me. It turns out that there's no single answer. There's different patterns that we found that we don't have time to go through, but the only thing you have to remember is two things. One, you need to have a baseline. If you take the test, you don't have at least the baseline of heart, smarts, guts, and luck, you should not come back to the web next year. But what you really want to be focused around is which one or two dominant traits really drive you. And to have self-awareness around those one or two traits, which brings me to this session around wayfinding. Wayfinding is really about having your own self-awareness for the entrepreneur. More important than any other quality, I promise you, in great entrepreneurship is a deep self-awareness of who you are and why it is you're doing what you're doing. So how do you become more self-aware? Well, one way is to psychometric tests like ours or Myers-Briggs or PI, but there's a total of 5, and I'll talk briefly about the other 4. Peers and mentors. Do you have a set of people that are intellectually honest with you that will tell you the things that you don't want to hear as much as the compliments that you already get? Second, accountability. Do you actually write down what you say you will do and then go back and check if you've done it? People like Warren Buffett do this. I've talked about the psychometric test, the power of pause. Have you taken a moment to self-reflect, meditate? I think we have a company, Headspace, here. To actually think about what's driven you in the past. And with that time to take pause, ultimately develop values and standards. Values and standards, not for a company that you put on a card for your wallet or plaque, but personal core principles about your own why and the standards and references you have set in terms of what you want to define as excellence. So why does any of this matter? Well, it really matters because I believe fundamentally about a 5th archetype of entrepreneurship and the biggest movement of entrepreneurship for the next decade in the purpose-driven entrepreneur. The purpose-driven entrepreneur is the entrepreneur that has that connectivity and authenticity from the soul to the product to the end user. It's the entrepreneur where purpose comes before product and product comes before profit. And of course we've had this in the past because all the greatest companies in the world are purpose-driven. Think of Zappos. Is it a shoe company? Or does Tony Hsieh talk about delivering happiness as his why? Think of IKEA. Is it in the business of delivering cheap modular furniture, or is it in the why of democratizing great design for the masses? Think of Starbucks. Are we just giving premium coffee each day, or is Howard Schultz really thinking about giving you a mini respite and a third space? The purpose-driven entrepreneur is part of the new movement, and I'm really happy for this because I've never seen so much self-awareness in entrepreneurship and the chance for something as big as a new art movement, a great movement of purpose-driven entrepreneurship. So, I'll conclude with this. Ultimately, what that purpose-driven entrepreneur has is a self-awareness that leads to great self-congruence. And self-congruence is where you have that purest sense of why. And let's look at this French compatriot demonstrating it.
Why did you do this?
Police took a humorless view of the act.
There is no why. This is probably the end of my life to step on that why. Death is very close.
Et donc je criais, regardez, regardez, et il a cédé.
Philippe Petit, In 1973, crossing the high wire act across the spires of Notre Dame. 1974, August 7th, the night before, shooting across with an arrow to friends on the other side, a thick cable, so that he could tighten that cable across, so the next morning with about a 50-pound pole, he could go across and do a 30-minute high wire act across the former Twin Towers. Because he wanted to see what he could set in terms of his values and highest standard set. You see, it's not about how crazy the idea is, it's about how pure the why is. And ultimately, self-congruence is just this. It's when you're in that state where you actually do what you say. Where what you say is actually what you think. Where what you think is actually what you feel. And understand what you feel is actually who you are.